Hi there. Not quite out at the moment, but it's sunny, and today I'm going to have a little bit of experimenting with the Deus Lite in deep mode. Before I go on any further, thanks to James C1981, who suggested a splitter system for connecting my new external speaker and my headphones at the same time, so as to be able to record both, as I'm sure that I'm missing out on stuff if I'm just relying on this rather cheap speaker. I think another member of the detecting hub recommended a clip, so I bought a holster clip from Amazon. Presumably this is really for your guns, and that clips on quite nicely to my belt. Right, I'm all rigged up, so let's go. I like the Deep program. The problem with the Deep program with the Deus Lite setup is that because it's a two-tone system, it's really hard to know what is actually giving a signal above iron, but still in the rather trashy category. Those with the remote can look at the figures and look at the lines, etc., and they can know that it's coke or foil or something fairly rubbishy, or get an idea that it's one of those things. If you're using the light setup, it's much harder, because you don't have those things necessarily to hand. So my way round it to start off with was by pre-programming a deep program next to a deep program on full tones, and by switching those very quickly from between one and the other, I could tell by what the deep program in full tones was giving me to whether or not I should dig. But that was problematic in itself. The deep program on full tones is not an easy program, doesn't give a very good feedback really, and I like using full tones. I like using the hot program mainly in full tones. So anyway, this is the first time I've got the puck out. I'm running at the moment hot on 2.5 reactivity. I'm going to change that to deep, and I'm going to use the puck now and the numbers on the puck to give me an idea of what's under there, rather than just the deep tone giving that really lovely dig me signal, and in fact it's coke or rubbish and not really worth digging at all. It's very deceptive, the deep mode, if you're using the Deus Lite. Anyhow, we'll see how we'll get on. I've got the external speaker rigged up, got my earphones rigged up. All we need to do now, change to, I think it was 6, isn't it? There we go. Change to 6. Now we're running on deep. We've got stubble here. It's about 3 or 4 inches long. It's dead-ish. It's fairly weak. I think we'll get through it fairly quickly. This feels quite detectable as it is. I haven't found much on it recently. I think I've found a lot of the things that are to be found. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on with this deep program. And I will be cross-referring to the hot every now and again to see what the difference would be. Right, let's give it a go. I've also got my drone with me, so if I get bored I can play around with that. Believe it or not, it was a toss-up between buying the remote for the Deus or buying a drone, and I ended up buying the drone. I suspect a lot of you will be thinking, what are you doing? Anyway, we'll see. I don't want to buy the remote yet. I like using my ears. I've got really used to it. So let's see. Anyhow, hopefully we'll find something. Right, we've got a really strong sounding target already. Right, if I was running just with the backphones, that could be anything between coke running a really low sort of dull signal to silver or copper. But now it's quite easy to check. Well, saying that, here we go. So running, you know, nice high signal. Just going to check what the hot program would be giving me. I'm not going to do this all the time. But just, let's have a... Very nice signal from the hot as well. Okay, back to deep. Let's have a look. I think it's probably just under the surface by the sound of it. Bit of rubbish. But you could be forgiven for digging that on any program, quite frankly. Right, let's go. Keep going. Right, would you dig that? Definitely a bit of iron in it. So this is it. If you had the remote or the box, I believe, by looking at the numbers and the lines, it would give you the answer. But with the light, we don't have that to hand. And that's really where the deep's very deceiving. Let's have a look at the puck. What's it saying? Is it iron just jumping between a good tone and a bad tone? I don't know. Should we just check the hot quickly? Have a look, see what hot tells us. Gosh, you probably wouldn't dig it from that either, would you? It's just a... I don't think it's a good target in iron or around iron. Anyhow, let's dig it and see. Right, it's out. It was quite deep. So I'm thinking horrible iron. Let's have a look. Well, after all that, it's one of them tubes. So, well, what did we learn? It was a hell of a long way down. Well, not a hell of a long way down, but 8-9 inches. Giving not an attractive, not a real dig me signal, but you know, that's a... Be forgiven for digging that. Anyway, we live and learn. Well, here's quite a nice signal. That far above, 4 inches above the ground, that's on the hot at the moment. Deep gave a banging signal. Four or 5 inches above the ground. Boof. Have a look, where are you? Don't know what that is. A brass ring of sorts. Well, could be something, could be nothing. But it seems to have a bit of... Oh well, we'll have a look at that later. Well, You wouldn't have missed that on either program, would you? That's a nice enough two-way. It's not spiking about at all. I'm not going to cross-refer to the hot. The numbers say it's in the 80s. Gosh, maybe I'll start enjoying this number lock. I'm mainly using the deep today because I've used the hot over this field a lot recently, and I'm not finding a lot. So deep has just given me, hopefully, a bit of extra depth, especially in this stubble, and maybe to see if I am missing stuff. But I'm not going to use it the whole time because I do find I'm having to concentrate a bit. I don't like concentrating too much. I can't see, I'm going blind. My carrot skills, aren't they? Not up to much today. See that this bit of, yeah, bit of lead. Bit of lead. Sorry, chaps and chapesses. So this is where the deep program on just your, just in the ears can be really tricky, and that's why I don't use it very often. Something like this. Is that diggable? Well, you might have thought so, mightn't you? That you can hear a tiny bit of iron in there. It's not exactly a steady two-way, but is it? It's just spiky enough, isn't it? Do you want to waste your time on that? See, in any other program, that would almost be dig me. But in the deep, I don't think that is. It's just jumping around too much. Let's have a quick look and see what numbers are. Can't really, it's hard doing this with one hand. Leaping about between them, right. So quick look at old Hot. See if this suggests we dig. No, you wouldn't dig that. Not in a million years. There's a little spike coming through, isn't there? But far too much iron. I mean, if you really were bored and there was nothing much coming up, you might dig it, but not from that. And in the deep program, you probably, I mean, look, I'm not an expert. I've only been using the Deus for 2 or 3 years. It takes a long time, and there are millions of people out there much more experienced than I am. This is just my thoughts on it, but this is the problem with the deep program and the light setup. You don't really, it doesn't give you enough confidence, put it that way. Should we dig it anyway? See what iron it is. I'm not going to film digging it. I'm just going to dig it and show you. Well, that was exhausting. And there's the culprit. At about 8-9 inches, lying sort of on its side. Is actually sort of like that, I think. There you go. The deep program. Learning the deep program. Another one here, the signal's jumping around all over the shop. I don't know how easy it is to read 40, 50, 60, nothing. Well, that doesn't bode well, does it? Should we see what it is? Well, that's quite solid, isn't it? Let's have a look. Cartridge cap. That's what we found today. Oh look, little key. Quite a sweet little key. I don't know much about these little casket keys. It's a really lovely one. Oh, lucky me. Happy with that. I don't know how old these things are. Not very, I shouldn't have thought. Not with a... Anyway. On that note, I think we might call it a day. I think one of my final thoughts on the Deep program with the Deus Lite setup is not to take it too seriously, otherwise it'll drive you mad. We all know it's a bit spiky. The great Gary Blackwell's done loads of stuff on it. But there are certain ones you just know to leave well alone. For example, well, that's such a strong signal so far above the ground, that's probably not going to fool many of you. But even... not much iron in it, is there? The numbers are showing me late 60s, 70s. Let's have a look what the hot would say. You're not going to dig that. You're not going to dig that, are you, from the hot? But you might have done from the Deep program. And that's where you've got to sort of take it the Deep with a pinch of salt, I think. Otherwise it'll drive you mad, even in quiet ground. I did dig it just to reassure myself, just in case it wasn't a pot of gold. Big bit of plough iron. Don't be fooled by Deep, don't be fooled by the Deep.